Today, we're going to break down 4 moments that brought the entire global economy to its knees. We'll get into the anatomy of a financial crisis and hopefully uncover the lessons history keeps trying to teach us about this relentless cycle of boom and bust. It's the big question, isn't it? It echoes through every generation of investors, policymakers, and, well, all of us. Why, after everything we've learned, do financial markets seem destined to collapse over and over again? The answers, as you'll see, reveal a powerful and deeply human recurring pattern. Okay, so to really get a handle on that pattern, we've got to start with the blueprint for pretty much all modern crashes. An event so catastrophic it completely redefined our understanding of economic disaster. We're kicking things off in the roaring 20s. You can just picture it, right? Boundless optimism, stocks soaring, easy credit. It was a decade-long party. But the thing is, that party was built on an incredibly fragile foundation, and the hangover was about to last 10 long years. So you had the boom of the 20s, where ordinary people were pouring their life savings into a market they were told could only go up. And that led directly to the bust. On Black Tuesday, the panic started, and it set off this devastating domino effect that just rippled through the entire economy for a decade. This house of cards metaphor is just perfect. It totally captures the heart of a speculative bubble, where you have reckless bank lending propping up a system that's built on nothing more than the fragile belief that prices will just rise forever. The moment that belief shattered, so did the economy. And make no mistake, this wasn't just some event on Wall Street. This was a human catastrophe. At its absolute worst, 1 out of every 4 workers was unemployed. These were people who lost their savings when the banks failed, and now they were losing their jobs, their homes, their hope. It was just a brutal lesson in how a financial collapse devastates the real world. So our next crisis shows that the trigger doesn't always come from Wall Street. Nope. Sometimes it comes from thousands of miles away, inside a barrel of oil. So check this out. In October of 1973, the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, hits the world with an oil embargo. And almost overnight, the price of oil quadrupled. It jumped from $3 a barrel to 12. For all these industrialized countries built on cheap oil, it was like someone just seized the world's engine. This crisis introduced the world to this terrifying new economic monster, stagflation. Before this, economists really thought you couldn't have high inflation and high unemployment at the same time. Well, the oil shock proved them dead wrong, creating this toxic mix that just crippled businesses and devastated households. All right, let's fast forward to a crisis fueled by complexity, global ambition, and that seemingly simple American dream of owning a home. This time, the weapon of mass destruction wasn't oil. It was a mortgage. And it really was a noble dream, right? But it got twisted by banks that were handing out super risky subprime loans to people who honestly couldn't afford them. All of it was done to fuel this unprecedented housing boom. Wall Street didn't see the risk. They saw an opportunity to package it up and sell it. This slide here, it perfectly illustrates the financial alchemy at the heart of the crisis. So banks took these risky subprime loans, bundled thousands of them together into these crazy complex bonds. You might have heard of them, MBSs and CDOs. Then, the credit agencies just stamped these bundles with a top-tier AAA safety rating. So these ticking time bombs were sold to unsuspecting pension funds and investors all across the globe who thought they were buying the safest investment possible. So when a housing bubble finally burst, the investment bank Lehman Brothers collapsed, and the entire global financial system just froze. Solid. Credit, which is the lifeblood of the economy, just vanished. To stop a complete and total economic apocalypse, the U.S. government was forced into this massive and very controversial bailout of the exact same institutions that had lit the fuse. Our final case study. This one shows a crisis that wasn't triggered by greed or oil, but by a virus. And it all unfolded at a speed that nobody had ever seen before, which really showed just how fragile our interconnected world had become. In March 2020, as the world went into lockdown, markets didn't just fall. They absolutely plummeted, faster than at any other point in history. But then, something extraordinary happened. Fueled by massive government stimulus checks and the rise of a few tech giants, the market staged this historic rebound, recovering all of its losses in just 5 months. But this incredible V-shaped recovery, it exposed a really deep and painful disconnect. While the stock market was soaring, Main Street was suffering. Millions of people lost their jobs, and small businesses closed their doors for good, creating this divide that, frankly, still lingers today. So, after going through all this, a stock bubble, an oil shock, a housing bust, a global pandemic, what are the common threads? What's the lesson we can pull from nearly a century of collapse? Whether it's stocks in the 20s or houses in the 2000s, the pattern is just eerily similar. It starts with a speculative frenzy, usually driven by this herd mentality where everyone's chasing the same sure thing. Then, because our global system is so connected, one failure can trigger a chain reaction. Human fear and panic then pour gasoline on the fire, turning a little downturn into a massive crash. And finally, governments are forced to step in. It's a cycle of human psychology, not just market mechanics. History shows us that these crashes happen fast, recoveries can be slow and really unequal, and our collective memory is just dangerously short. The lessons are often forgotten just in time for the next bubble to inflate. We know the pattern, it's rooted in our own psychology. The only question is, what's going to be the trigger next time?